Vault. And this was born out of my love for watches and horology and music. My 40-year career in the entertainment industry has brought me to this point with the collection and with the Watch Hobby USA group and the WatchHobbyUSA.com website. But it's time for a show. So we're going to do a great show weekly. It is going to be about watches. We're going to talk about watches. We're going to talk about their relationship to the world and history. That's the neatest thing about them is the way that they tie in with history. The programming will be centered around a year or a time or an event in history, and we're going to discuss lots of things about that time or that date. The watches, of course, and how that played into everything, and because there are some definite historical effects to timepieces, and so we love that part of it. We hope you do too, but we are going to have things for people who love all things vintage, music, entertainment, art. It is going to be all-encompassing. So I hope you enjoy it. We start our shows out with a wrist check. See what watch we're wearing today, and for this episode, I am starting the first episode out with my birth year watch and one of my favorite brands. This is the Bulova 1965 Banker, and we're going to continue on with the show. Thanks for joining us. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the show. This is the first one, and I'm kind of excited about it. It's going to be an interesting one because it's new, and I want to just start you out with a little introduction to myself, what we're going to do here on a weekly basis. I want to discuss watches, of course, we all do, horology, and I'm a history buff, and I am definitely a fan of vintage items. We have a family Mustang business, so my dad was a Ford dealer growing up, and I got to see cars from the 60s on up as they came out. I'm one of those, I was born in 1965, so I got to see one of the most exciting times for watches and horology, I think, because of those years. I remember being in first grade and knowing the difference between quartz and winding watches. Since the piano wrist check, I changed into the watch that started it all. Dad's 1964 Bulova Beau Brummel. Fantastic watch, and I grew up watching him wear it. In fact, he wore it well into the 70s when everybody else wore quartz. I was very proud of him for that. Used to watch him wind it every night, and so I had knowledge that a lot of people didn't, and appreciated the old watches. I liked mechanical things. I liked to tear things apart. My mom's camera, watches, and I was doing that at a young age. So I got to grow up and know what they were, and know what I knew about the Moon watch when it went out there. I knew about Accutrons when I was a kid. So I am a Bulova fan. You might notice that. All my friends on Watch Hobby and Wristwatch Check and Urban Gentry all know that I'm a Bulova guy. I've got a large collection. I love my Omegas, I love my Hamiltons, but the Bulova started it. They've got a great history, a rich history that is sometimes very, very much left behind. If you really look at the brand, they've done some neat things, and they still got some great pieces. But anyway, this isn't just about Bulova. This is about history. It's about the time frame. It was neat to grow up in that time because of of course, the crisis that affected the Swiss market, and could have made a huge difference in us ever seeing the wonderful watches we still have. I'm of course a huge fan of all the Swiss watches. I've got my 47 Omega right here, which is of course one of my favorite pieces. And 69 right here and a Hamilton next to it. But then again over here, the 4 of the 100-year Bulova collection. We do have, between my wife and I, we have at least one from every decade for 100 years. And I think we possibly have it both women and men, but I'll have those all out on the website one day for you all to see. Anyway, I am a vintage watch collector. First and foremost, I collect everything, but my majority of my collection is vintage. So a lot of you may not have ever collected vintage, and I understand that. There are tons of different kind of collectors out there, and that probably is going to be the main point of today, our first video, and the conversation there is that, as I introduce myself, I am one of those collectors that some people think are crazy. I have literally hundreds of watches, but they range from 1920 all the way to now, and there are just, I love the art, I love the designs, I love the different styles that every brand has to offer. And there are also similarities, obviously, like cars, like music, like a band. Everybody does pick up something. If you're a songwriter, you pick up something from a songwriter that you love. If I'm a pianist, I play piano, and people say I sound like certain people. Watchmakers and designers and the architects behind the design are going to be, of course, getting influence from other people. So we all see that. My favorite thing about watches is the fact that they are incredible in that they generate their own power. Bottom line is, and a lot of people don't really consider that to be a big deal, but the fact that something actually can generate its own power internally and run without any outside source is kind of makes you think. Wonder why we can't make a big old movement to run the power for the community, or maybe like lots of them, tons and tons of movements altogether. Anyway, we have an interesting hobby. It's growing like crazy. That's one reason we're doing the show. I want to tie it in with the world, because as horology grew, if you go back, we wouldn't have had the shipping and the transportation movement in society if it weren't for horology. A lot of people do not know the historic significance in timepieces evolving and society progressing. And I think that's a real neat thing. I saw it in my lifetime with the conversion to battery-powered watches and solar and and kinetic, and from a time when you had to wind it, and then a time when somebody learned how to establish something that could actually be self-wound and actually perpetuate its own power internally. Those are all neat things, and it's something that I think is a valuable contribution to society. So watches are neat, even for those who think us watch collectors are kind of crazy sometimes. People wonder why would you collect watches? Well, there's a lot of collections. We all probably have other things that we enjoy too. Personally, I'm into cars as well. Obviously, pianos. I've been a pianist for well over 40 years, so it's been part of my living. This show and is kind of something that I've looked forward to, and because of my 40 years in the entertainment industry, I think it's a neat direction to go with my love of watches and horology and history. Just a good avenue to do something neat and to enjoy the history and enjoy the camaraderie with our fellow collectors. So I hope you've enjoyed the first show. The only thing I didn't get into is some history, so I might pop a little clip in there and talk a little bit about that. But we're going to do different things every week, and I just hope you join us again, and I hope you've enjoyed this part of the show, and I'll see you soon.